Hello, my name is Laura Irvin, and today I'm focusing my research on two dissertations about civil rights. First, I will provide a brief synopsis of the content of the two papers, and then I will review the sources, methodologies, and finally, I will draw some conclusions. The synopsis of the papers consisted written by James Bernard Pratt Jr. and Emily A. Martin Cochran, wrote about the South and the effects of the civil rights movement in the South on African Americans. Pratt concentrated on the violence and destruction of the civil rights era in Albany, Georgia, while on African Americans that pursued the American dream and that effect of that pursuit. Cochran based her paper on how civil rights movement in Southern Georgia was not moderate as portrayed, but instead white social and political elites attempted to undermine and suppress the efforts of Black activists. Next, we'll talk about the sources. The primary sources that Pratt selected were valuable and part of the significant contributions to the civil rights movement. Those sources included, but were not limited to, W.E.B. Du Bois, The Souls of Black Folks, Frantz Fanon, who wrote Black Skins, White Masks, J.F. Gilgan, it explained through qualitative social work how violence affected the lived experience on its perpetrators. His secondary sources explain the civil rights movement and the types of violence experienced in specifically Albany, Georgia. So like the legal control of the civil rights movement, and it documented how African Americans faced a battle with the legal system, which had already defeated them before they had even begun. Cochran's primary sources documented meeting minutes, newspaper articles, interviews with civil rights activists, and images. Her wide range of sources is representative of Southern Georgia. It allows her to verify her argument that the movement was suppressed and compromised by the white social and political elite. Her wide range of secondary sources focused on the civil rights movement and the way in which Southern Virginia dealt with African Americans during that specific time frame. She outlined her information about territorial race formations, building on Omni and Winnett's theories of a radicalized landscape. Her continuance explaining the support of her sources helped explain her theories and strengthened her arguments, validating her idea that the civil rights movement was not a moderate movement in Southern Virginia, but it was hampered by the social and political surroundings of Virginia. Next, we'll talk about the methodologies. Pratt's methodology he used was feminology, which is the study of consciousness and objects of direct experience. His method wed violence together with desire. And using that method, he came to the conclusion that there was further work that could be done and completed on this current topic. Cochran, on the other hand, his methodology poignantly explained how white culture and ideology created a distant division between the races. And she further detailed how the tobacco industry created a structural domination. So in conclusion, Pratt can continue to explore different ideas and violence and life experiences in Albany, Georgia, and how that relates to the American dream, the equal opportunities that are afforded to every American. His research can investigate other anchor institutions in Albany, Georgia, their impacts and the effects of African Americans. The African American community was marginalized in their fight for equality in Southern Virginia, as Cochran pointed out. An example of that was given in the fact that she talked about the schools and how the schools were allowed to fully integrate, but that full integration didn't occur until 1970, when freedom of choice was not ruled as an adequate solution to integration. So in conclusion, as our reading about history has explained to us, everything does have a history. And it is important that as we proceed in our education, that we adhere to what our reading stated, and we must describe and record real events without looking up at the events with anachronistic eyes and portraying something that could be historically wrong. Thank you. Have a nice night.